Welcome to Dino Loves Podcast. I'm your host, Bultum, and I'm thrilled you're back for another episode. Today's episode is an interesting one. We're going to the gaming universe. Yeah, if you heard of this website called Roblox, you can play lots of games. You can play some like theme parks. You can do some mini games. You can do like make a pizza or go to water parks. Go to lots of things. In fact, you can actually see Barney on Roblox, and I'm happy to have someone who's in Roblox, and I'm glad that he came to do this episode. How are you, Jesse?
Pretty good, Bultum. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm happy you came to the show.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. And how are you doing this during this pandemic?
Personally, I've been all right. I've been lucky enough to live in an area that we haven't been really impacted by COVID. In terms of my Roblox work, it's almost given me more time to dive deeper. During the pandemic, I've been able to go through and almost rewrite most of my work, being able to change my ethics and everything like that, always for the good, not for the worse. And honestly, the pandemic for the gaming industry, if you will, it's almost boomed in the pandemic, which is amazing because a lot of new people are just trying to kill time at home nowadays. With Omicron going around, it's more just isolation. So when people go into isolation, they just want to go and play some games, and I'm lucky enough that sometimes it happens to be my games.
Yeah, I understand, like, this is a Barney podcast, but I really want to focus on Roblox for a minute. So how did you start on Roblox?
I started on Roblox by honestly just searching on YouTube, just videos of the things I liked at the time. A few things to name were the Wiggles, Barney, of course. And naturally, I just found that stuff on Roblox. And I didn't know what Roblox was when I first started. Like I said, it was all on YouTube videos. So then I wanted to see what it was about. So I went on the website, and when you go and try and join a game, it tells you download this. So I did it. I made my account, which is actually my previous account before I made my JugglesFatBoy account. And I went on there, and that's really where I learned how to play Roblox. And then when I figured, you know what, you can actually develop and create the things that I would have wanted to see as I was searching for the Wiggles or even Barney, that's when I created my JugglesFatBoy account in 2016. And since then, I've done almost everything entertainment-wise.
Oh, that's great. Is there any ones that you want to share?
Yes, actually. Part of the reason I've been able to come on this podcast is my work in a group called Barney and ROBLOXIA. Currently, my title is Chief Executive Officer and Senior Vice President of Stage Tours and Marketing. And that has been and continues to be my main project going forward. I've done some side projects. I've done some wiggle stuff. And throughout the years, I've cut some of the things that I couldn't see a future in. And I've kept the things that I can keep building and keep creating, which I love to do.
That's great. Now, I'm guessing with doing all these events on Roblox and doing like some mostly like kids entertainment, how does that change your life?
Honestly, it's oh, sorry, were you gonna?
Yeah, I meant like I'm not like change your life, like how it affected.
Oh, okay. Well, the way it honestly going on and doing kids entertainment, you don't have to really worry about the censorship that Roblox likes to put on.
Right.
It's made my life easier to create, and I've always been a creative person. I'm a musician outside of the virtual world, and I've played in bands, I've done live shows, I've done everything. So to be able to come and create that stuff on Roblox, but be able to use something that I already know is going to be able to go through Roblox's like censorship system.
Mm.
It's really good, and it's affected me by waking up when you have those bad days. You can go on and you can pull a mini event, and you get a few people and you can impact those people's days.
Right.
And a lot of the times, making my day on Roblox isn't me discovering how to do something. It's me releasing something and seeing the effect it's had on my audience.
Right. As you know, I was part of Barney and ROBLOXIA too. I was like one of the main Barneys for for 6 years, and the way how people reacted that Barney's on Roblox and feeling their childhood memories, it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of Barney, how were you introduced to Barney?
So I was introduced to Barney, honestly, by the Wiggles home videos. They would
Mm.
have that little bit of promos go before the actual video,
Yeah.
and Barney kept
Yeah.
playing there. And obviously, Barney's pretty mainstream, so you would go to a store and you'd see all this Barney stuff, and you just collect it over time. And I've never bought a DVD, or I've never bought a Barney doll or plush, which I wish I did.
Mm.
I was able to rent them from places that you can rent DVDs, like the library even. And I
Mm.
watched a lot of the stuff. And then I did watch the TV series
Right.
when Dean was the voice, pretty much from his beginning to the very end.
Oh, that's great. Uh, do you have a favorite memory of Barney?
Actually, yes, I do. And I can remember it like the back of my hand, Bolton. When I first seen Barney's Big Surprise,
Mm.
that honestly opened my eyes to like how big Barney was. I watched it when I was older, not when I was watching Barney as a kid. I
Right.
watched I watched it firstly probably 3 years ago now. And considering I was starting to get into BIR, Barney and ROBLOXIA, at that
Yeah.
point, um, I was kind of, I don't know how to really describe it, kind of blown away at how much this dinosaur could affect a whole arena of kids. And ever
Hmm.
since then, that moment has impacted my work on BIR, and has also just impacted the way I live, knowing that, if someone can be that big just because they're doing the right thing, I hope that I can do that as well.
Yeah. There's a upcoming Barney documentary that's releasing this year. I'm not sure when it's coming out, but it's coming soon. What are your thoughts on that?
When I first heard it, honestly, and I hate to say this, I thought it was a joke. There's been so many reboots that have been in the works, and then when Bob West tweeted out about it, that's when I knew it was legit.
Mm.
Um, and honestly, my initial reaction was kind of like, okay, how are they going to take this? Are they going to showcase the effect Barney had, or are they going to go through the route of like the history of it? Which either way, it's going to be a
Mm.
good documentary, and I'm excited to watch it. And it'll probably be that one movie that I watch 20 times and I never get bored of.
Right, right. I have those movies that I want to watch over and over and over and over and over. And you just said this about reboots and all that. Apparently, the series of Barney and Friends might be returning either this year or next year. What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, my thoughts, especially since I grew up watching the series, I'm excited because I know it's gonna unlock a new wave of Barney fans.
Hmm.
However, with that being said, I'm always I think of things in a business sort of view. I've thought of them since I was a little kid,
Hmm.
seeing the big numbers and stuff like that. That is what I like to do. I'm honestly, I think that if Mattel does a reboot, unless they push it like they do their other products, I don't know how well it will go in today's day and age, considering it's been years since Barney rapped. Although
Right.
Barney is on Universal Kids, I don't know how that's going to transpose when you go from this year-long like kind of shutdown and you try and bring it back. Obviously, it's Barney. Once people know the message, they're going to love him, just like we all did.
Yeah.
Hopefully, they can push it as strong as they would their other their other products.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. Recently, Barney's going on streaming services like Netflix, Tudo, Amazon Prime, lots of streaming services, and some Barney merchandise are already coming out. It's like there's one that just announced a few days ago, and people are excited to get one of those, and that Barney magic feels like it's coming back.
I'm very excited about that. Seeing that the magic is coming back, I'm glad that people are still open to receiving it.
Mm-hmm. And what are your thoughts of like people who are like negative about Barney? Like they said like Barney did this, Barney did that.
Honestly, especially since I'm currently working on Barney events, and you do get those people, you get them everywhere. Mm-hmm. Anything you do, there's going to be haters. I know that sounds so like 2014, like say no to the haters, but I think that when people don't understand the message of Barney, I think that's the main part. They don't understand it, whether they don't have kids and didn't see the effect, or didn't watch it when they were a kid, or maybe had a younger sibling that would watch it and they just had to sit there and quote babysit their brother or sister. But honestly, when people come to BIR events and they are those people that are very negative about the character, I think of it in two ways. Barney's helped me become more positive in my life, not just watching the series, but then almost continuing the legacy of Barney within BIR. That's kind of helped me positively. Now, like I mentioned, some people may have been not forced to watch it, but there was no other option. Right. And I think that's when people see it negative. But there's been a lot of these stories, especially on Carrie's podcast that he's had and is still doing. He mentions that a lot of people email and be like, you know what, I hated Barney, but when my kids seen this, those stories are very good, where their kids see it and they love it. So the parents love it, but the parent was the person who hated it back in the 90s.
Yeah. I understand. Like Bob West, like the original voice of Barney, does like he does like conventions around the states, and sometimes fans like tell that same story, like with Carrie, and he did tell a story like one convention he did, like a group of people just went up to him and just sang the famous song.
Yeah, I always love hearing those kinds of stories, because that's proof that the Barney magic is still alive, even if Barney's not out and about today, especially with the Universal Studios attraction being closed.
And what are your thoughts after a 25-year run?
After 25 years, I can see, like I mentioned before, I see things through a business point of view, and I hate that I see things like that, but I think there's just times where you can see it like that. Watching the videos, if you go on YouTube and you search A Day in the Park with Barney 1995, when it first opened, you see all the seats are filled, packed, like probably to the point where they were saying like, listen, you might have to come to the next show. When you look at clips from the last few performances, dismissing the last one because that was pretty packed, the numbers have dropped, and I can see why Universal has done that, especially with the rise of all these new characters and things like that. And it basically is a fight for the top. However, I do think that a lot of Barney fans would look at Day in the Park and see that that was the one thing that was carrying the legacy, where you could go in, still hear Bob West, hear BJ's whistle intro, things like that, the little things that they've cut out and maybe just the 90s kids would remember, compared to people my age and my generation, where they grew up with Dean Wendt. It was good for the original Barney fans. Actually, a comparison I can make to that is right now with the Wiggles. I know this is a Barney podcast, but I'll mention them for a second.
Yeah.
Currently, they have the new lineup. Well, yeah, with
Yeah.
Sahai now
There's a new
going on
lineup. Yeah.
going on the Fruit Salad Big Show tour, whatever it's called. But then they also have the OGs on tour, like on a separate tour. That's kind of like how the Universal attraction was, where there was the TV series for the new kids to watch at the time with Dean, but then the parents would take their kids to Universal to meet Barney, and the parents would get more nostalgia if they grew up with Barney.
Yeah.
And Barney lasted for so long that can happen, you know?
They kept that attraction for 25 years. It's definitely had time to have, like, the kids who watched it grew up and had kids, and now they're showing their children like what they used to watch and being a child again.
Yeah, I'll quote back to Carrie's original podcast, Purple Tales. And he mentioned in one episode, and I can't tell you the name of it, but he mentioned that there's people, the millennials, as he called them, that go to Universal every year and kind of reminisce about Barney. That story alone is just proof why Universal meant a lot to so many people. And I think that's my opinion about Universal. Go back to your original question, like what I think of it. Although I can see why they shut it down, I really wish it would have stayed open, or at least just the Barney area stay open.
Maybe they would have updated it.
Maybe update, yeah, exactly. To have the if you can call them current cast members, maybe add Riff into it. Obviously use Dean's voice, everything like that to match it. Because now, like, look at us. Some people who grew up around early 2000s are getting to the age where they're starting to have families. There could have been a second wave of that, them bringing their kids to this, but unfortunately Universal decided to close it, and that can't be.
Well, there has been talks about, like, Mattel is building a new theme park in Arizona. There could be a chance that Barney might be there. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, exactly. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Oh man. What do you think that Barney taught many children around the world? What's the big impact?
So the impact that Barney had, I'm lucky enough that I can still see it whenever Barney and ROBLOXIA does an event. I think the impact that Barney gave was basically to show people that honestly the grass is always greener on the other side. No matter what happened in a Barney episode, no matter what happened in a Barney home video, there may be its downs, there may be its ups. It always ended with the song I Love You, and it just always ended right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people right now who, especially, and I'll go back to your first question about the pandemic, may have been affected personally by it, whether they've lost people to COVID-19 or they've had COVID-19 and it's affected them. They can look at Barney and they can look at just the happiness as an outreach. And I think the impact that Barney had on everyone watching it is just, it was just happiness. If you want the definition of happiness, well, Barney the dinosaur is the purest form of that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. His legacy lives on forever, even though he's now he's almost a 35-year-old billion-dollar dinosaur. His legacy still continues to what it is today.
Exactly. I think the home videos and everything, obviously, they don't just disappear. They'll last forever.
Yep. If Barney was here right now, what is the one advice he would say to a child right now?
I've thought about this question, or not this question, I should say, but I've just thought about this for a long time, especially when I started working with Barney and ROBLOXIA. And I honestly, I think that Barney, like, if he were to come back right now in the age of technology, I think the main motive that I could see the Barney team, or the main advice, sorry, that the Barney team could be producing is almost like when I've talked about the happiness, basically using Barney as the safe corner of the internet.
Yeah.
Because no matter how you look at it, Barney can never be twisted in any certain way. Like there's no like screenshots of things Barney did or anything like that. Barney's always that safe corner of the internet. Yes, people may make stupid jokes about Barney online, but for a kid, they won't find them. I think if Barney was here right now, like you said, the main advice that he'd give is like the safety of everything, because especially right now during COVID-19, safety, I think we hear that word 2,500 times a day.
Yep.
Safety is probably the biggest thing Barney would teach, because the happiness and everything would already be there.
I 100% agree with you. I can't thank you enough for coming in, Jesse.
I can't thank you enough for hosting me, Bultum. This podcast I've watched I think it was 2 episodes last night. I love that the fact that Barney's able to come through the fans again, and fans all over the world can come and reminisce about Barney and how it's impacted them. And especially even if you're not on the podcast, you can always leave a comment on the YouTube version of these podcasts. And just, I'm glad that you're using this as a safe place for Barney fans to come and just rejoice in the Barney magic.
Thank you. And more episodes will be coming out soon, and it'll be great.
It'll definitely be great, because this podcast, it's something else, Bultum. It's something else.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to follow Dino Loves Podcast, and our episodes will be up on Spotify. Coming soon, it'll be on Apple Podcasts and more other where you can listen to all your podcasts. If you want to follow our social medias, it'll be under the description below. And remember, if you need someone special, then all you have to do is make a wish, and Barney will be there. We'll see you next time.